Hey there, YouTube. This is Fragments of Memory, once again, aka the Armchair Philosopher. I was watching a video by a YouTuber. The name is The People's TV. I think he goes by the name Styles. And this is just sort of my reaction to the video. Now, he opens it up by saying, the youth are out of control, and he's glad that people are scared of the youth, I should say. I don't want to misquote the man. And he's glad because people are not talking to the youth. Now, I don't know what's going on in the Chicago area because I'm not from Chicago, I'm from St. Louis. But with situations going on here in the Del Mar Loop with the young people and throughout the greater St. Louis area with the Knockout King scenario and whatnot, one of the things he said is that the people in the so-called meetings and community forums fail to do one thing, and that is talk to the youth. And they let the television raise the youth, and they let the video game system raise the youth. Or at least that's what I gleaned from what he was saying. He touched upon one thing: we live in a society that's all about the instant gratification, the what's in it for me now. And I'll admit I'm very guilty of that instant gratification syndrome where I want it now. I don't want to have to work for it. I want it now. I don't want to have to jump through the hoops. I want things to be easy breezy now. So there's an old saying that was said, which basically said, that which we obtain easily, we esteem lightly. I think either Thomas Hardy or Thomas Paine said that, but that's neither here nor there. We do live in a society that is on materialism, and he pointed that out in the video. And unfortunately, in this mentality, we've sort of coddled the youth. We've coddled people in general. Instead of talking to the youth, we let the television babysit them. Instead of talking to the youth, we throw a plush doll up in the situation. And I'll agree that I've sort of disconnected myself from people and been in my own little bubble instead of actually engaging the public that I claim that we should help. Unfortunately, we're doing all what he quote unquote punk stuff, or being cowardly or being weak because we're not addressing what's going on. Now, he even gets into the whole idea of the nature versus nurture, that whole idea. And I'm reading a book right now called Endangered Minds, and this woman is talking about how neuroscience and education corroborate with one another. She wrote the book back in the 90s, but a lot of what she's saying is true today. How not just internally, but external factors affect a person. And he goes into the whole scenario of the young man living in the dilapidated neighborhood, and his mother's an alcoholic, and his father might be gone, or the father might be a drug dealer or an abuser, or whatever the case might be. And there's a youth where he talks about the youth that when you look into their eyes, there's nothing behind their eyes. You don't know what's going on here. It's just this blankness, this emptiness. And unfortunately, because that child isn't educated by his parents or his community, surrounding community, and he used the example of Lil Susie, she was taught things like etiquette and hygiene. So of course, the teacher, obviously not wanting difficulty and controversy and drama in her classroom, is going to go and educate the students that she feels is going to learn. And then of course she throws him to the curb. And it is not that these people are bad people. It's just that these students are in bad situations, and unfortunately, they believe everybody should walk around without hygiene, without etiquette, because that's the world they come from. And I'll agree that all of us, myself included, are guilty of looking at people from our own perspective. We judge them by our measuring stick. Now, granted, I am going to say that whatever situation those kids are in, it's really bad. And I acknowledge that that is a reality. And I can imagine that schools do pick and choose who they're going to teach and who they're going to let fall by the wayside. And sometimes you did bring up a very valid point, Styles, People's TV. You brought up a very valid point about how sometimes the most wicked person is wearing a three-piece suit and has really impeccable manners. It's not the person that might be dirty and out on the street. Might actually be the person living in a mansion. So I'm not really here to rehash your video. I just wanted to react to it and just say that first and foremost, I thank you for bringing a certain truth to the table. And secondly, I find that it's a shame that we don't reach out to those that might be in a situation that is messed up, and genuinely reaching out to them without looking down on them as though somehow we've attained superiority because we're not like them. Instead of having this sort of a pharisaical way of thinking. Now, granted, I've never been in the streets, so I can't really say, oh, they need to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Do I believe in choice? Yes. Do I believe that people need to make better choices? Yes. But do I understand sometimes that even if there are people that wouldn't know good if it came and sat down and bit them, you know? So I can understand that. And especially if you're in a situation where everything's messed up and everything's foul, you assume foul is right. And if someone else from outside your circle or your sphere, your world comes and says, hey, this isn't the way to do it, the dominant culture that's surrounding you that you can't leave is telling you that whatever he's got ain't good for you. This dude over here is a quote unquote sucker because he didn't do what you're doing in your neighborhood now. And this, of course, leads them to being exploited by maybe a drug dealer or whatever the case might be, as you pointed out. And exploitation transcends all economic or educational backgrounds. But unfortunately, it does seem that those that are in the poor situations without a strong sense of self or a strong sense of family or a strong sense of community, they are susceptible. They fall prey to those things. You see the statistics, you see the news, and even certain parts of St. Louis that I've been in, where I might have seen one area looks really dilapidated. And I ride public transportation, so I see a lot of the folks that come from a lot of those areas on the public trans. Some are just good, honest, hardworking folk, and then some, or the youth, that a lot of times are rambunctious, and some of them seem to be troubled. And again, you really don't know that man. I don't know that person's story, but I just thought I'd at least make the vid and kind of say, well, you know what? I like where you were coming from as far as the fact that instant gratification is everywhere. And we expect our problems to go away just by closing our eyes and rubbing a magic lamp and everything's going to go away magically. And that's not true. If I really want a problem to be dealt with, I've got to mix it up and get into the fray. I can't just sit back safe in my little hovel going, I've got mine over here and you can go over there. And that's a lesson I'm really learning, and I learn it hard every day. Because sometimes me dealing with other people can be burdensome, it can be annoying, it can be vexing, it can be trying on my patience. And sometimes I find myself fearful of the youth. Because my automatic assumption is I see too many young people in a group together, I'm automatically assuming they're up to no good, and that could totally be a lie. But I've been conditioned too. Well, that's my 2 cents. Thank you for tuning in. If you have anything to say, leave your feedback. If not, that's cool too. Be easy like Sunday morning.